Hello and welcome to another great episode of the Optimize Show. I'm David Mammano, your host. So happy that you are here today. We have a new show every Wednesday morning, and I hope you're watching it and sharing it. It's free to watch, and the only thing we ask is that you spread the good word. So like it, love it, share it, subscribe on YouTube. The whole works. Really would appreciate that. Today, I have on the show that it's not going to disappoint. He's a dear friend and a really great business owner, optimizing a lot of things in Rochester here. And his name is Anthony Rotoli. Anthony, welcome to the Optimize Show.
David, it's an honor to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me. I know whenever since we've met, whenever we get together, we have a good time. I think we talk about something that's relevant to the world and our lives and business, and other times the discussion goes off in all kinds of different directions.
A few tangents.
A few tangents.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we met about.
Which we'll try to avoid in this.
Yeah, we'll be focused.
Yeah, we'll be focused.
It's all about how you're going to help people with the things you're doing to optimize your life and your business. So, we met about 6 or 7 years ago. We figured out. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but meeting you, hit it off right away. A lot of commonalities, a lot of great stories, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, so. I think it was Avante.
It was Avante. You were a member of my Avante mastermind group.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just at that time. It intersected when I just launched Broadreach Technology Advisors.
Yeah.
And that was very important to me to be part of that group, your leadership, and the other individuals that were there, sharing ideas. Learning from them, and really helped me focus on just my priorities of what I needed to do to get really going in the business.
Yeah, well, we loved having you as a member. You not only learned, but you helped us. You taught too. So you named your company. I'll name it again. Broadreach Technology Advisors, LLC.
Yep.
You are the founder and managing partner.
That's right.
Along with your partner, Jim Keegan.
Correct.
Right, who I haven't met yet. I just know you, right? So are you the face of the organization, or am I just a lucky one?
My role is definitely, I wouldn't necessarily use the word face of the organization, but I'm in sales, business development.
Right.
I consider myself, that my title is managing partner, Jim's as well. It's 50-50 ownership. But certainly I am out there advocating, attending the networking events. I consider myself, I've been in sales now 37 years. I'm the sales guy.
You're a sales guy.
Yeah, I'm the sales guy.
Yeah.
And that's my role. Jim's role is project management. He's a fantastic engineer.
Yeah.
He's been in the business over 40 years in various areas of telecommunication. He's just got a mind that's great for the business, for the customers.
So you catch the fish. You throw the fish over to Jim, and he takes care of it from there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's maybe an analogy you could use, but I will say this: he has a hand on the pole and helping me reel it in.
All right, good.
Because I think it's the key thing when you're talking about technology with a business. Oftentimes the technology that we're interacting with, and we'll get into more, I know, in the discussion, is critical to the business.
Yeah.
So both of us together with my capabilities and his together combined, our close ratio when we're in front of a new client is like 99%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like 4 out of 5 dentists recommend.
Yeah.
Who's that one, right? Who's that 1% that's saying no? We want to find out, right? Maybe you need to bring me just to,
okay, you're the closer. 1%. Okay, we're gonna get the objection. When we get the objection, we're like, okay, wait a minute, hold on.
Let's bring in Dave.
We're in Dave. We'll get the call. Dave, we got a tough one here.
So definitely want to talk about Broadreach Technology Advisors, about what you do.
Yep.
I want to get your journey first, but just in case people are wondering, why should I listen to what is Broadreach? So Broadreach, it's a great company that you guys started about 6 years ago, right?
That's right.
And you go into companies and you help analyze their technology, right? So their telecom systems, their phone, their internet, their cable, whatever they're using.
Right.
And at no cost to the customer.
That's right.
You will go in, you will analyze everything that they're doing, and you will tell them how they could save money and how they could have better, while getting even better service and or saving money.
That's right.
And no cost to them. You're making your revenue, your company's revenue from the
suppliers.
The suppliers.
That's kind of maybe one way to describe it, and it's a component of the overall model of the business. But maybe to add to that, really the core of what we're doing is giving decision makers the ability to objectively evaluate all their technology options. through a single source, our company. We're channel partners for 100 different suppliers. These suppliers are providing technology locally in Monroe County, but also nationally and internationally. Yeah. So oftentimes when a company is struggling to modernize, it could be their internet service, it could be their contact center, it could be just basic phone system, mobility. We're branching into software and security services. Yeah. But oftentimes, the option that they've had over the years is they'd have to go do a lot of their own research, which they should do, but they've had to individually contact various suppliers, because oftentimes you're not going to just contact one.
And maybe they don't even know all of them.
Exactly. This is where I'm going at with that. Yeah. So they individually, someone has to take the time within the business, and they don't know what they don't know to start with, and they're just contacting randomly Spectrum or Frontier or maybe Crown Castle, and each time they're getting a sales pitch from each of these companies, and each of these companies are technically, I don't mean to sound negative, but they're going to shoehorn that client into their product.
Sure.
They have no choice.
Yeah,
the guy from Spectrum.
They can't be objective. They got to sell their product.
Right, they got to sell the product. So what we devised is a model where you can work with an objective advisor. I've been in the business 37 years. Jim's been in the business for over 40 years. So we always say we're bringing over 75 years of experience to the table. We're doing this every day, helping business make wise decisions on their technology for their businesses. We see what's going on in the market with suppliers. Suppliers, their capabilities changed. We have suppliers that may have a great customer service model, but all of a sudden, someone in the business decided we're going to offshore this, this part of the business, which could have an impact on their customer support. So obviously, they're not going to get that direct information when they're dealing directly with suppliers. Yeah. Having someone advocating for your business, for your decision makers to provide objective advice is the only way you're going to be able to make the best decision objectively. Yeah. So we often start off with, as you alluded to, is an analysis of the business. So to tell us, give us an idea. The first, conversation is give us an idea of who you're doing business with today, what problems you're trying to solve, where you want to see improvements. Sometimes it's cost. We want to reduce our costs. Sometimes they recognize the technology we have for the way the business has grown, or in this modern world with now AI coming into the picture. We need to do something more sophisticated. And I'm not convinced. I know for a fact that the right technology in business, your business could give you a competitive advantage. And I can give you examples of that, where we actually deployed our first AI-based solution over a year and a half ago for a large Western New York insurance company. And it revolutionized the way they're providing customer experience. And not only that, it revolutionized the way they're managing their customer support people. They have more intelligence to know what's being said on conversations, and the satisfaction of that interaction with their customer. How did it go? What did the customer think? But at the end of the day, what our goal is really to help decision makers within the company be more efficient at their job. We're the extra set of hands. And oftentimes it does start with a free business analysis of their current expenses. With that, we get an idea of the vendors they're using, what they're spending, what the client's getting for their money. And oftentimes, going through your bills is not something, hey, I think I'm going to go through the bills today. But if you have someone else doing it for you on your behalf, and they know what they're looking at. If you ever looked at a phone bill recently of any of those?
When I need to fall asleep, I pull it up.
I mean, it's coded almost intentionally. And there's these fees and that fee. So part of what we do too as the audit is, well, wait a minute. Are you still using that service? Oh no, we disconnected that year. Well, it's still on. You're still paying for it. A lot of times when you enter into a telecommunications contract for, let's say, your internet service, your voice services, you enter in it. The contract goes in the bottom drawer somewhere, and accounts payable. As long as the bill doesn't change, they just keep paying the bill. Well, they don't realize what you're paying now is no longer market rate. It's much more, or it's changed. So oftentimes the analysis we do. Probably the most significant one last year, and there was a I won't mention the client, but it was about 15 locations, a lot of older technology, a lot of older spend. I think the savings there was 33%. It was about $13,000 a month.
A month?
A month.
Wow.
And it was just, we took the time scrubbing out all the bills, all the invoices, looking at what they're spending at each location, having them justify why is that service still there. We do take a little bit of a risk because there's a lot of work in the project like that.
Yeah.
When we go back with the analysis, it's up to them of how they want to proceed.
Yeah. They can be like, thank you, and we'll take care of it from here.
It happens. It's happened very rarely, but they'll say, that's just great information.
Yeah.
We'll call and let you know what we're going to do.
Right. You're like,
but in most cases, though, they realize we've invested a lot of time. We brought a lot of valuable information to them. We expanded their knowledge of what's going on and what their options are. So at that point, what we like to do is say, listen, you've got this bucket of savings. In that particular scenario I mentioned, that customer was about to spend over $100,000 on equipment and all this stuff that their existing vendor was recommending. Well, we showed them how to save $13,000 a month and apply that money towards modernization, and that's exactly how they proceeded.
Without having to spend any more money, pretty
right.
much, right?
So they saved the money and they fully modernized.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. The other thing we do too, oftentimes when we're dealing with decision makers, is there's vendors out there that are top-notch, well-rated vendors. They don't have local brand recognition, but they're very relevant. And the one example of the insurance company was a good example of that, where they were focused on, in this case, it was a large contact center opportunity. The big brand in the market is Ring Central. And Jim and I saw flaws of where that really wasn't going to work for the customer. But the customer was, he thought they had done a couple of different vendor demos, and they wanted to make a decision. And we said, listen, you got to pause here. These are the flaws we see in relative to helping your business. You ought to look at this other vendor. Yeah. The other vendor happened to be named Dialpad. The guys that started Dialpad were the ones that built Google Voice. Again, who knows that? Who knows the Dialpad name, right, locally?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
I said, Paul, he goes, okay. He said, Anthony, I trust you. I'll do this, but this is the last one. We did the demo. I had a script for the vendor. I said, you got to cover these points. This is what Paul's looking for. You got to solve these problems. And I go, please illustrate that if you want to be successful. Within 10 minutes after the demo, he goes, thank God I listened to you. This is what we're going with.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And it's been that was the one where they were already doing advanced AI. So again, technology people don't realize, I always like to use the analogy, like today's modern, we still call it a phone system. They're cloud-based, but they're so sophisticated. And the analogy I use is like a TV. You still call your smart TV a TV. Yeah. But think of the TV we had growing up with 3 channels. It was just a box, and it wasn't intelligent at all. But now you still call it a TV, but it's much more sophisticated. You have all your apps on there. You're streaming. That's how we're phones. And I think a lot of companies don't realize that. Well, wait a minute. There's technology out there that I could bring into the business to help in many ways. So where AI is going to kind of come into play is, especially in customer service situations, it's listening in the background. Yeah. So a customer service rep that's getting an objection for a call, it hears that objection, it pops up on the screen. This is how you handle that objection. Yeah, that's amazing. Right, and there's a script for that for the agent. Yeah. Or if the call, it has sentiment analysis. It could sense when the call is going awry. Yeah. It immediately bridges in the supervisor into the call. Oh, wow. It could sense that instantly. That's crazy. And then from the end, what's most important for organizations like that is really you can't manage what you can't measure. So for them to understand what's really going on in these calls, the VPs are not on every call, obviously, but they can get a weekly report to show sentiment analysis for certain calls. They take the worst rated calls, listen to them. They take the best rated calls. They use those at the sales meetings of what should happen. That kind of stuff. So what I'm sensing, what I had learned about your company, what I thought I knew, is that you were just going in there, analyzing their bills, and saving them money. But you're doing so much more than that. Absolutely. Right? You're acting like a technology advisor in helping them to make sure that they're using, the best, most cutting-edge technology at the right price, and maybe even suggesting technology that can make their business even better. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's about procurement. It's And cutting edge technology, it really depends on the businesses. You have some businesses that don't really need technology. They need the technology that aligns well for their business.
Yeah.
And the way any decision maker is going to make the best decision is knowing all their options.
Yeah. Yeah.
And doing
in an objective way.
In an objective way.
Yeah.
And doing it efficiently.
Yeah.
If there's companies that have data networks. We'll just use a high level data networks. They might have 20 locations. And they're all distributed throughout the United States and internationally, South America, Europe, Asia. And they're on old technology and they want to modernize that data network. So for an individual, you could go to your existing vendor if they're capable. You can contact other vendors and just randomly meet with some random salesperson who knows where. And you can go through that process. It's going to take you days and months and hours out of your already busy schedule. Most technology people have a full plate.
Yeah.
A lot of technology innovation is inhibited in companies because people don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And they know taking on a project is going to add to their already hectic schedule.
Yeah.
So what we like to advise is when you bring an advisor like Broadreach Technology into the mix, we're that extra set of hands that allow your regular schedule not to be really disruptive. Behind the scenes, we're doing the work.
Yeah.
We're presenting the analysis. We're bringing the vendors, the homework that vendors that we've already vetted to the table. Now your decision is, looking at our analysis document, hearing our presentation, seeing what we put together. We prepare very formal presentations, analysis, and then we create a framework how to strategically proceed.
Yeah.
And that's very important. Now, individuals and companies can do that all themselves.
Yeah.
It's like if you buy a house, you can go out and try to buy a house yourself, or you can hire an expert realtor who knows the market that you're trying to buy in. They can give you guidance, and it's much more efficient.
So they're not only getting your expertise, but they're getting the opportunity for someone else to objectively come in and what do they say? See the forest through the trees, because you see things that they're in there they might not see or probably don't see.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing to do too is the key with us is, foundation of the business that Jim and I share the value that we share is we want to be long-term trusted advisors, to the business. So we're there for the initial project and ongoing support. Oftentimes what happens with suppliers, the churn of salespeople is incredible. Say, maybe I shouldn't mention any particular companies, but I'll say brand names that are local in the community.
Acme Incorporated, right?
And the salesperson that sold you something that promised you all kinds of, by the time the order is done, they're not even there anymore. Right. Yeah. So that often happens. And with us, we're the consistent resource. We become a long-term trusted advisor for your business. Customers that we brought on board 3 years ago, they'll get these random emails from various offers from they just send it to us. Is this worth considering? And we look at it and we determine if based on what we know of their business now, because we've kind of been integrated, we said this is probably worth
I know that firsthand. Years ago you were working with a local company that it had nothing to do with their communication services. It had to do with their managed services, their network.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I was doing some work with another company helping them, and you brought us in, and they had nothing to do with your core business, but you were acting as an advisor.
Yeah, that was Julie with Cremato at Zweigels.
At Zweigels, exactly.
Yeah. So. And that's when Julie heard our pitch. And we and that was a broader project that we did charge for that because we wrote the RFP and everything. But she realized, exactly what I said. Like, these guys are going to come in, they're going to do majority of this work. My small staff, they don't really that big of a staff there. It's kind of a flat organization. It's not going to get disrupted in doing their already full day of production and managing all that. And it worked out beautiful. And we still have that relationship. That was about 4 years ago. And but that's our purpose, is to be a constant resource for you. We're aware of what's going on. We create a strategic roadmap for you, and our goal is to be, have a long-term relationship.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I remember when I first met you. You had just started, and you're lack of a better term, you were dialing for dollars. Right, you were picking up the phone and you were cold calling, and
well, David, I'll tell you this: when I left my corporate job, and it was a situation where our team, there were 13 of us throughout the country, was eliminated, and I think there was a couple people in the bigger cities that we were able to go into other roles, but up here there was like, no, we don't need anybody in Rochester. But anyways, I'd left it was like a Thursday. I got my, I talked to my wife. I said, look, this is what I'm thinking of pursuing. She goes, well, what does that mean? I go, what it means is I'm not, no more paycheck coming for me.
It means that you're supporting me.
You're supporting me. You're supporting us.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure there's dinner every night at the table for you when you come home.
Even if you have to buy ramen and cook it.
Right, exactly. But it was midweek, and by that Monday, I was dialing for dial. I was on the phone. I had put together the business plan over the weekend. Now, this model of the real name for what we do is we're channel partners. It's been going on. You have an option as a decision maker to buy directly from the supplier, let's say like a Spectrum, or through their channel program. Okay, and that's been going on for 20, 30 years, especially in larger markets where the channel partner is very integrated in business, big businesses, like companies that I've been associated with through channel partner programs like Citadel or Morgan Stanley or American Express. So they often use channel, and it's kind of new in this space here, in this region. People are used to dealing directly with suppliers. So what we're doing is, I can't say I created the model, but we're probably one of the most, at this point, successful channel partner organization advisors in Western New York.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
So, we kind of got really excited about your business, and we covered it, which is fantastic. What I do want to learn too a little bit about, how did young Anthony end up in this role? I know that
it was a circuitous path.
You're from Rochester, right?
Yeah. What's that?
You're from Rochester, right?
Yep. I grew up on the west side.
Yeah. Parents from Italy came here.
First generation. Yeah, first generation. It was post World War II Reconstruction, and like a lot of Italians, had the opportunity to come to Rochester. Rochester was a hub of there was 5, 6 large clothing manufacturing companies that lacked the labor that was needed to run them. And they went to Western Europe. That was rebuilding after World War II, so they came here. My story is similar to a lot of first generation Italians that have gone to do great things in our community. Big names that we know of. I'm thinking like Tom Golisano and stuff like that. Others. But anyways. And I just went through, parochial schools, and then I got to the point where I wasn't sure I wanted to go to college or not, and my brother had enlisted in the Air Force a couple years earlier. I said, I'm going to try that path. He really liked it, encouraged me, and my parents did as well. If they thought that's what I wanted to do, and I went knocking on the recruiter's door, and then the way it works in the military is you take a bunch of tests, and based on how you score on those tests, it gives you, that gives them the sense of your aptitude for different things, and where they need you, they said, you're going to be a telecommunications technician. I'm like, okay, what's that?
This is what, early 80s?
1982, early 80s.
And what was Telecom back then?
Was Mabel. It was just after what was considered divestiture. Where, the breakup of Mabel was inevitable. And then you had
and so those that don't know, what is Mabel?
Mabel was really the moniker for AT&T.
Right. Yeah.
It was the moniker for AT&T.
Essentially had a monopoly, and the government broke it up.
Exactly. It was an antitrust thing.
So Mother Bell,
similar to Standard Oil. Yeah. And they created the 7 baby bells.
So they took a sledgehammer to it. And created different.
And they often, like we learn in college and business school, is competition breeds innovation. And when you have a monopoly, the joke was, what color phone do you want? Your choices are black, black, and black.
Right. Yeah. It's like the Model T back then.
Yeah, it was like the Model. Right. I mean, it was. I mean, they were innovative. I mean, the Bell Laboratories, they shouldn't. Was incredible in what they did. The Bell Laboratories, I think they were in New Jersey. So I don't want to be too negative, but when it came to consumer-oriented products, it was limited. When it was broken up, it created a lot of opportunity for a lot of different players. So I said, okay, I knew it was a civilian-related type occupation, so that if I didn't want to continue in the military after my 4-year obligation, I would have some options, and that's kind of how I pursued it. My home base was in California. I was stationed in Osan, South Korea, for a while.
So when you heard Telecom instead of bomb dropping, you were like
munition specialist, right?
You were like, okay, I like this.
In the Air Force, a lot of the roles in the Air Force is unlike you don't have, there isn't an infantry squadron or anything. Most people in the Air Force, I shouldn't say most, all were trained for some practical vocational kind of skill, plumber, electrician. You could really do well. The training is great, and it's just a discipline of it all. I mean, when I was when I was in boot camp and everything that was going on, and I was witnessing it, the first day you're there, they cut all your hair off. You go in, you come to Lackland Air Force Base is where basic training is in San Antonio. You come in all the different personalities and hairstyles. You get in late at night, and the first thing in the morning after mess hall, you'll get your haircuts and you give your uniforms. So you go in with your individual personality, but as you get processed now you're all in green uniforms, you go through the barbershop, you all come out in this drab green uniform, you're all shaved heads. I mean, it's like you didn't recognize, like, are you who was, it was like, but they did that purposely to break you down and say, okay, we're going to start you from scratch.
Just because Anthony has nice hair, we don't want to give him
I had long hair, I had dark shaded glasses.
I'm sure. What's different, right?
And they picked me right out. I was a target of the team sergeants for the whole 6 weeks.
He's like, we're going to get this dead head. We're going to make him look normal. Right?
Yeah, we're going to make him look normal. So it was fantastic. I think now maybe I should have stayed in more than 4 years or whatever. But after my tour, I came back home. I had kids then. I was married, and I did what was important for me to have my kids have a relationship with their grandparents. On both my wife's side and my side. And it worked out great. But I was able to leverage pretty quickly my technology, telecommunication experience and knowledge. But I also was finishing my college degree, and I knew I wanted to get on the business side of things. So I leveraged, I came back, I worked for a company that still exists locally, Ronco Communications, as a technician. I was in a truck. The first day I was there, my truck broke down on the throughway. It was a horrible experience. It had no air conditioning.
Right.
Okay. The new guy, give him that truck. I'm like,
we'll see how much of a military guy he is.
Right. But I got through all that. But within 6 months, and I'll never forget it, my first day in sales in telecommunications, and I've been in sales ever since. Sales capacity was the day after Labor Day, 1987. And I'll never forget it.
Yeah, the stock market crashed?
No, I don't remember that. I mean, in '87, I may have sometime.
It was the fall of '87. I remember.
I had nothing to do with it.
I had nothing to do with it. I was just saying, did you cause that? Right?
I had nothing to do with it if it did. No, I just remember that. It was like, but it was funny because I left Friday in my technician garb, and I came in, and people were looking at me like, I was reading a lot of the books. One influential book for me initially, and I started this when I was in the military. We traveled a lot, and I had a lot of downtime when I was traveling, but Lee Iacocca's autobiography.
Yep, I read that too. Fantastic, right?
Yeah. It was, I guess there was an affinity towards him because of his Italian background, first generation guy. And it was really inspiring. And I knew instantly I wanted to be a business guy. And sales in particular, for whatever reason, it became my passion. I really studied.
I remember reading that in college. I thought it was incredible.
That book, the Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, those became
staples, right?
Very influential to me, and I really took it to heart. I mean, I still every day look in the mirror and say, you're the best. You're the best. No, but that's self-talk.
You're good enough, and people like you.
Anthony. And I was motivated too at the time. My wife and I made a decision that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and we had 2 kids, and I wanted to make sure my kids were provided for well, and that we would have a nice life. So I really motivated me to do well. I wanted, and I once I got into sales, it took me a bit of time. But it worked out well for me. I was very passionate about it. Sales, especially when you first start. There's a lot of rejection. There's it's competitiveness in the office. I don't think people were really necessarily rooting for me.
Right.
Competition. It's competition. I think over time I gained a lot of respect for my peers. I believe that. Maybe I'm wrong, but. Because they saw I really worked hard. I really was out there. I was knocking on doors. That was back in the day where you could just knock on doors. Now there's very few receptionists. Most businesses are locked doors and stuff like that.
I know.
But it was really.
You could walk in cold calling, right? You could get kicked out of the finest places, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I really look back and I think, if you're really going to be in sales and want, and sales is, we all know, is the key function of any business. I mean, nothing happens until something gets sold.
That's right.
Right? But I think for me, it was my formative years, and it was the best way to be. As much as I struggled, I'd be home. I could just remember myself now. I'd be cutting the grass. Like, man, I gotta get these sales. I wasn't on commission only. I did have a salary, but it was modest, and I was really just, I wanted to sell not only to make money, but to kind of prove I could do it and just to keep growing. But it was the best, having that kind of drive, for the right reasons, for the right purposes, and it drove me to do really well and work hard. Because you have to have the perseverance. But then I also built a little system for myself as well. What I would tell people, and I still tell people today, is when you cold call on someone, the chances they need what you're selling at that moment that you knock on their door is very rare.
Right.
It has happened, even in my business.
Yeah.
And it always starts off with, "It's funny you called." I'm like,
oh my God. But
right. And it's happened a few times.
That's very rare.
Actually, two of my biggest accounts was through cold calls.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From that manner.
Yeah.
One of them, unfortunately, went out of business, so they're not really accounting anymore. But, but anyways, it was, I developed a system. Every business I went into, I had an index card. I wrote down when I visited, if I can get a name of a contact, a decision maker. I would take a peek at what, at that time I was really selling phone systems. I could just look over the counter and see what they had for a phone system. I knew the age of it, the vintage of it, and I just kept calling them. And it was
like your own little personal CRM at the time.
Yeah, I would take that card, I'd put it, if I was June when I called them, I'd put it to August or September, and beginning of September, let's say, I would see all my index cards, and the system actually, proved to be effective, because you can't just keep knocking and just, you knock on 25 doors a day is about what I was doing, and it really built the pipeline that I needed. And then once the ball stopped rolling, of course, the cold calling wasn't as critical. It's just kind of how it works.
You get the flywheel turning, but you continue to cold call a little bit every now and then, right?
Yeah, even to this day.
You got to feed the beast, right?
Yeah. Well, lead generation is a whole different level today in businesses, and we're reaching the scale now. What we did this first quarter this year, the amount of revenue we've done is what we did all last year in 2023.
Wow. Yeah, but that's just the compound effect of you year after year putting in the work, right?
Putting in the work, getting the referrals.
Yeah, and you started 2018.
Yep.
So we're coming on 6 years here, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. And
people, I think that's a good lesson for, especially some of the younger people watching this show, is, it's not a light switch.
No.
Right? I mean, it's a water pump. You're outside, right? And there's no water coming for a long time.
Sometimes or it comes initially in fits and starts.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't come for you give up. Because you're like, I've been pumping for hours.
Yeah.
And there's no water. And you walk away.
The funny thing is too is at different companies I worked at, you see these people come in and they were working hard, but they were so close, and then they would give up.
5 more pumps, that water could have come, right?
No, but what would happen is they would give up, or they would just throw in the towel. They just realized it wasn't for them. Sales isn't for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, the biggest deal they were working on, call came in. It's like, well, the guy's not here. Give it to Anthony. And I'm like, if the guy had just waited, because you definitely need the affirmation of getting the call back. You have to have something to keep you going. After a while, it's there's things you could do, head fakes, to keep you going, but you do need those affirmations and those wins. Yeah,
that's excellent. Well, Anthony, you and I could talk forever.
Yeah.
This has been a great conversation. Thanks for sharing. Part of your journey and really what Broadreach is doing. So the official name of the company, Broadreach Technology Advisors, LLC.
Yes.
Give them a call. Or actually, if they want to reach out to you, how do they do that? They're like, Anthony, I want you to analyze everything that I'm doing from a data technology perspective.
Certainly our website, brtadvisors.com, it has a contact form. It has just a bunch of information, anything you'd want to know about our company, the services we provide. So I would suggest to go there. You can find me on LinkedIn, Anthony Rotoli at Broadreach Technology Advisors on LinkedIn, or you give me a call. I got a simple number, 585-672-5400.
And he is married, lady, so just business only, okay? So. Anthony, thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure to see you again. Look forward to it. Thanks so much.
Massive continued success. You're doing great things in the community. So
thank you, sir.
So, and of course, I want to thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching and or listening. We're on Spotify too. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Optimize.inc. That's our website. So a lot of different places to watch us. And again, big favor. Share the love. We're trying to get best practices from best-in-class people and companies so that in Rochester and beyond, the high tide can raise all the ships. Thanks again. Make sure to have a great day and stay awesome.